Welcome to this week's episode of Chalk Talk, brought to you by U.S. Sailing. And don't forget, a collegiate U.S. Sailing membership not only comes with all the regular benefits of the U.S. Sailing membership, but also a bunch of free stuff like the iPhone Rules app, a subscription to Sailing World, and discounts for lots of great things. I'm Chris Love.
I'm Eric Stark.
And Eric, it's great to have you once again from halfway across the world. Last week you were in Palma, Spain. Where are you this week?
We've moved on to the next stop on the World Cup in Hyères, France.
Well, it's great to have you here because we are looking at Nationals qualifiers. The first weekend of Nationals qualifiers, and the big one was the Prosser Trophy, the Mesa Team Race qualifier for Nationals. A beautiful weekend as Cornell hosted the Prosser. Video brought to us by head coach Brian Clancy and audio commentary by Coach Russ O'Reilly from SUNY Maritime. As expected, it was Georgetown, St. Mary's, Hobart, William Smith, and Navy in the Final Four. And very close going into the final races of the regatta. We almost saw a three-way tie, but as it turned out, Georgetown takes the win. St. Mary's second, Hobart third, and Navy fails to qualify for Nationals.
Yeah, so Hobart picked up that third spot, and you picked up a point on me there, Chris. So Navy just didn't get it done, but it was good to watch. Also watching around the country, starting to fill up those 36 spots to compete at USC in the semifinals. SASA Co-ed at the College of Charleston held their championships. Miami won, followed up by Charleston, Eckerd, the Florida Gators, and University of South Florida getting those final spots. CISA had their co-eds at Texas. Tulane, Texas, and Texas A&M got those three spots. Northwest held their co-ed events at UW. University of Oregon and Western Washington got the two spots there. And a little further south, PCCSC held their co-eds at USC in the U.S. Sailing Center. Stanford, UCSB, UCLA, and USC showed their prowess early in the semifinals venue off the Belmont Pier in Long Beach.
And so picking up on a trend we've talked about in past episodes, team racing in the ICSA. We see here at the Prosser, as well as the Marciando Freeze Regatta hosted here in Boston, a new winner, it seems, every weekend. This weekend in Boston, we had Charleston versus BC in a knockout round. Charleston came ahead 2-1. Harvard takes third in that one, and we had Yale, Brown, and Tufts all tied going into the finals. They did a sail-off, but they remained tied after that, and that's where they stayed. Ties broken by points. But it just goes to show you this event, as well as the Prosser, as well as the past 5 weekends of college sailing, no team really emerging as the clear and dominant leader in the ICSA.
That's true, Chris. And past years, sometimes you've seen at least 1 up to 2 or 3 teams emerging by this stage of the season, maybe 4. You could probably go into nationals saying with a 80% chance this is who our Final Four is going to be. But this year, I think the top 8 might even be, a little bit tough to get into. You got, for sure, the top 3 teams from Mesa, top 3 teams from NISA, Charleston, maybe 1 or 2 PCC teams getting in there. And there's just going to be no way of telling who's going to be in the Final Four and who's going to take it at the end of the season. So stay tuned for lots more. It's going to be great to watch.
Another trend I'm discovering this weekend is just the opposite. Early in the season, we talked about the multitude of women's teams who had put up good results in the fall and wondered who would be emerging as a leader on the women's side. Well, here, the way I see it, we've really only got 4 teams, and they just so happen to all be from New England. At the President's Trophy this weekend, we had Conn take the win, Yale second, Brown third. And it's these 3 teams, plus Boston College, who did not compete this weekend, who have really been dominant this season. In the last 4 out of 6 women's regattas, these 4 teams took the win, and they usually make up the rest of the podium as well. So kind of surprising to see the consolidation of power into NISA as the women's season goes on.
Yeah, Chris, I got to agree with you. Those 4 teams in the past few weeks have certainly shown their dominance. There's a few teams that are still question marks out there. One, you got to say Georgetown. They won the Navy women's a month or so back, and they've also placed 4th and 6th in the following weeks and haven't really returned to the circuit. We haven't seen much of them, so still a question mark. Coast Guard got a third and a fourth both this season, but they're a little bit inconsistent, also 10th and 13th, and they've never beat any of those Elite Four that you mentioned. William Smith got a few top finishes, a fifth, a third, but they've also got a ninth, and they've only once beaten Brown and Yale. And then the final question mark I'm really wondering about is St. Mary's. Megan McGill and Mimi Roller, a lot of experience and very good sailors. But Megan has been on the co-ed circuit a lot this spring. We just haven't seen much of that team on the circuit. But remember, they did win women's ACCs, and I'm sure that they will be there at the end of the season.
Well, we're going to have to hold on just a little longer for most of those women's qualifier events, but they're coming. This weekend, we've got a whole slew of events, though. The Mesa Co-ed America Trophy, hosted by St. Mary's for 8 spots to semifinals. NISA Co-ed as well, at the Coast Guard Alumni Bowl, hosted at URI, also for 8 spots at semifinals. PCCSC has its team race qualifier at Stanford for the 2 spots to the team race nationals. CESA also has team racing at Eckerd for 2 spots, and CISA Women at SMU for 1 spot to the women's nationals finals, 1 spot to the women's semifinals, and that's 1 fewer spots than they got last year.
Championship brackets are really filling up at this point, Chris. I'm most excited to see the NISA Co-ed, Mesa Co-ed, and PCCSC team race champs. And so why don't we start off with our picks this week? Let's take winners in each of those 3. So NISA Co-ed, who do you got, Chris?
Well, I'll tell you, one team I've been keeping my eye on in NISA is Roger Williams. Very, very fast in the fall. They've had a pretty good run at team racing as well in the spring, but I think they'll be quite at home, not too far from home at URI. So Roger Williams for NISA.
They do sail FJs a lot at Roger Williams. They'll be sailing FJs at URI. The venue there is phenomenal. They sail off the beach. They're virtually in Block Island Sound with just a little bit of a breakwater around them. So that's a great pick, but I got to go with BC at this stage. I think it's championship season, and they'll put their best foot forward, and I think BC takes it. One thing to remember, though, is that everybody's really just looking to get to semifinals at this stage, not a ton of risk-taking, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. In Mesa, at St. Mary's, I got to go ahead and take the home team there. St. Mary's, I think that it's a little bit less competitive overall down there. There's fewer points on the board to be taken. I think that plays into their strong suits, especially with Megan McGill, most likely sailing B Division, a lot like some women's events there. So I'm going to take St. Mary's.
Not a bad pick, but I'll tell you, I'm going to take Georgetown. And the reason is they've got the momentum. In the fall, they were great toward the end of the season. They won ACCs. They come out of the gate this spring with a bang, and I really feel like they're just going to be able to carry that momentum into co-ed qualifiers at St. Mary's. The home team might have a home court advantage, definitely, but I just don't think that's going to overcome the momentum that these guys have coming into this event. And then on the West Coast, we have the PCCSC Team Racing Championship. And Eric, being a former assistant coach of this team, maybe you can tell us a little something about the regatta, what we can expect.
This time of year, you're probably going to see breeze. You'll see a lot of races, pretty short courses, but it'll be great. They'll get a lot of racing. They'll certainly finish the rotation. Might have to wait around a little bit in the morning. I got to go with Stanford. I think that freshman team that got 4th at the Sneeder is going to make up the bulk of the team there, and I think that they'll get it done. But they will not win all the races. I'm sure that UCSB, UCI, Hawaii, any of those schools will easily take a few off them.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you this week. I don't think Stanford can be beaten on the West Coast. Very experienced young team for their age, and look for dominance there. I think the more interesting race actually will be for second place. Those teams you mentioned, very talented and fairly even. So it'll be fun to see who picks up that second spot. Well, that is going to do it for this week's episode of Chalk Talk. Eric, good luck out there on the 49er course.
Thanks. I will be here and here. Hopefully the internet gets a little better. Until then, I will enjoy the baguettes, croissants, et le vin. all that the French have to offer.
All right, thanks a lot. See you next week.